Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Boys and girls, I may not be the smartest person that you know, and I'm definitely not the smartest person that I know, but I do know when I think I see a fake, and I think I see a fake. Something doesn't look right. Something doesn't look right. We got a little bit of Q. How much, oddly confident lady?
Just one.
Thank you very much. Shall we begin? Before we begin, I want to add something that I failed to mention yesterday in regards to posts 3593 and 3594. I kind of casually said they were duplicate posts, and of course the text in here was, but I failed to mention that these were two different links. This first link in 3593 seemed to be some sort of Tor link, looked like it was taking us to the Q research page. As you can see, it can't be reached anymore. It couldn't be reached when I first saw it either. Some people were saying that this was linking for them in other browsers to Joe Marcipo's Q's Plan to Save the World video. That could be possible. I'm not sure because I was never able to see it either way. You guys can let me know what you found. But I failed to mention that that wasn't completely duplicate. And then, of course, this second one, 3594, linked us to a YouTube link, which I did end up showing you. So I want to go ahead and clarify that. Now let's move on to our post 3595 right here. Post 3595, 39 minutes after the hour of 7. We've got a lot to chew on here. I'll do my best with it. Looks like we are talking about Australia, Italy, UK cooperating with the DOJ, being Barr and Durham, classified 1 through 4. Now, I'm going to assume we're talking about 4 people. It could be documents. It could be having to do with the release of the IG report. But I think we may be talking about people here. But we have Australia, Italy, and the UK. Australia and the UK being part of the official Five Eyes intelligence group. Italy, not so much. But what we do know is that Barr met with POTUS right before he left for the rally, which is actually going on right now. But either way, whatever it caused the president to delay his departure and call in Mick Mulvaney and some other staff members as well as the communications team, which would suggest to me that they would be prepared to release a statement, whatever they're doing. But we do know also that it looks like the Durham criminal investigation is what has been delaying the release of the IG report. That seems to be the scuttlebutt, if you will. So looks to me like Australia, Italy, UK probably giving some cooperation. Now, we might be getting some cooperation with the Ukraine too, but either way, human intelligence, signal intelligence, etc. Non-Five Eyes official channel, U.S. senior persons required given sensitive nature of target regarding presidential nominees. And remember there it says nominees targeting the POTUS plus crews classified 1 through 4. So again, I think we have a couple other people here, but keep in mind, before we knew all about the spying on the POTUS, we knew that this originally was the Obama administration spying on opposition. And that at the time, the biggest threat was Ted Cruz. So this is kind of what busted this whole thing wide open. So, and keep in mind too, that as you spy on somebody, they were using the FISA warrants to kind of umbrella surveillance, hopping from one person to the next, meaning that your crew and then somebody in your crew knows somebody in another crew, so now we get to make another hop. So you end up spying on multiple people. Well, who gave the orders? I would assume it to be John Brennan. Who signed? I would assume that to be James Clapper. Multiple people signed on lots of different things. Multiple people signed on these FISA warrants. But I'm assuming that this all came from John Brennan and basically got executed by James Clapper. Papered per normal national security? No, not at all. That's what this whole thing's been about. Comms to and from foreign and domestic. Foreign to foreign, 1 to 4 U.S. persons. Well, there you go. So we are probably talking about people here. Initiate the scope memo, which of course leads us eventually to our special counsel. Ambassador 1 and 2, NSA unmask require. Well, who would that be? That would be Samantha Powers, right? And of course, she was the one that was unmasking everybody. NSA, U.S. Ambassador 1 and 2, Australia, Italy, and UK. So it looks like they're probably cooperating, but probably in the beginning, we're cooperating in the not so good way. Special order per directive, class 1 through 9, authorize unmask per U.S. ambassador. Okay, so it looks like we're talking about Samantha Powers. Was she unmasking 9 people? Maybe this release will let us know exactly who they were. But each unmasking requires approval, signing, key. And then again, we have 2 brackets there, and I'm not really sure what that means. I'd be curious to see what you guys think here, but this probably has something to do with some sort of either forensic or physical evidence we may be able to see. Maybe there was a key code required, something that would be able to show who approved what. That would be my guess. There's probably some sort of physical proof. CIA, domestic asset with rogue FBI to avoid U.S. law, non-op domestic. So yeah, we had multiple plans, right? We had Plantafort, of course, Paul Manafort, and then we've got our whistleblower, who I think we're talking about here, CIA human intelligence, domestic placement into the Trump campaign. Well, that could have been Paul Manafort, but we have 1 to 3 jumps, and those are those jumps that I'm talking about. So again, you're spying on one crew, and one guy in that crew is talking to somebody else, and so now I want to spy on that little circle of friends too. That's what we're talking about with jumps. President Trump ended up becoming part of one of those jumps, and essentially that's who they really, really wanted, but they needed to do it this way. I hope that makes sense. Trump White House spy insertion. National Security Council. Well, the National Security Council, would that have been under National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster? Are we talking about our quote-unquote whistleblower whose name I can't say, but you know, even though I made a sweet video that got taken down twice? Personal advisors, cabinet. CIA organized under the DNI, and of course, Director of National Intelligence was James Shut Your Yapper Clapper. 2010 to 2017, Clapper, bulk. Now, I'm assuming when they're talking about bulk here, we're talking about the hosting. Remember, I've said this many, many times before, and although nobody talks about it a lot, I do think it's an important detail to remember. Under James Clapper, the DNI made a deal with Amazon to house their servers. That's why I'm assuming they're probably talking about bulk there. And that was a big deal because there were other companies involved. IBM wanted to get a bid on that. I can't imagine any really company that was able to wouldn't want to do it. But a bunch of companies were trying to vie for this cloud storage. And normally what the U.S. government would do would be kind of split it up amongst a few companies so that it would be at least a little bit fair. But they took an exclusive deal with Amazon. Of course, Amazon is Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos is also the Washington Post. And Clapper is known for leaking. So I think you can imagine how this all worked. Everything was being housed by the Amazon servers. So of course, Washington Post would have access to all these servers. And that's a pretty important detail, especially considering how much the Washington Post hates Trump. 2017 to 2019, Dan Coates, sleeper prevent black op release of incriminating docs. Yeah, this is the curious thing about Coates, because I don't think if any of this really had busted wide open, I don't know if we would have known where Coates' loyalties lied. You know what I mean? I think that we probably would have slept on him had we not known about all this, but we've seen through this process that he's been kind of installed to make sure that this stuff doesn't come out. And that's why we haven't seen the bacony, cheesy goodness. And that's why we haven't seen the IG report. And perhaps this is the C before D. Maybe we needed to deal with Coates first. And of course, once Coates was released, we kind of saw his true colors, right? So it looks like he was another blockade installed. We may never have known about it had we not found out about the spying in the first place. That is your cue for now. Let me take you over to this story from CBS Los Angeles. 2 students killed in shooting at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita. Suspect opened fire on 16th birthday. A girl and boy were killed and 3 of their classmates wounded when a fellow student opened fire on his birthday at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita Thursday morning, authorities said. The suspect was hospitalized with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The shooting occurred just after 7:30 a.m. at the school located at 21900 Centurion Way. Responding Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies arrived to find 6 students lying wounded in the campus quad, one of whom they learned later was the suspect. He was identified to CBS News as Nathaniel Berhow, and apparently he had shot these kids and then tried to shoot himself. The suspect was later identified as one of the victims who was found in the quad, LA County Sheriff's Captain Kent Wegner said at a late Thursday morning news conference. 2 of the victims, a 16-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy, died from their injuries after being rushed to Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital. LA Sheriff Alex Villanueva confirmed Thursday that one of the victims who died in a shooting at Saugus High School in Santa Clarita was the family member of a Los Angeles Sheriff Department employee. 2 more girls ages 14 and 15, along with a 14-year-old boy, were hospitalized. One of them was later treated and released. Berhow turned 16 on Thursday, Wegner said. He was hospitalized in grave condition, Villanueva said. His gun, a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, was found at the scene with no rounds in it. Okay, so first things first, I want you to understand, especially if you are a newer viewer, that I mean no disrespect to this situation at all, but I notice a couple things very suspect with this story, and I feel the need to point it out. Now, whether or not, and this is a terrible thing, and the boy is listed in critical condition after turning the gun on himself. So I'm not necessarily questioning these things, but if you follow my channel for long enough, you do know that oftentimes we see some suspect events surrounding situations like this, and I want to point out a couple of them. So first things first, let's take a look. We are here at Saugus High School, and this is Santa Clarita. And as you can see there, it's actually pinged kind of in the center of your screen here, the Santa Clarita shooting. And we're just going to kind of zoom in really slowly here so that you can see this. I want to first turn your attention to 3 entrances. Number 1 right here, number 2 here, and then up towards the left of your screen, we see number 3 here. And this appears to be kind of the main entrance. It looked like a lot of people were going through. It's kind of like maybe the carpool goes this way here. And then you see the high school here, an open parking lot. And then off to the top of your screen here to the left, you see a series of covered parking lots. And the reason I'm pointing this all out is because I already noticed something very, very curious. What I want you to do is I want you to keep your attention focused right here on this open parking lot right next to the high school, right in front of building D here, which is highlighted top of your screen, this open parking lot. Now notice what happens as we head in. Right as we're going towards the entrance. Whoa. There it is. Let me back up a little bit. Take a look again. There's your parking lot. We're going to zoom in. And that open parking lot is now a building. And just to give you the perspective, this is the entrance we just came up to. Saugus High School. That was the first entrance over there. And now we see where the open parking lot would be. It looks to be their theater. Now let me just zoom out again and you'll notice it disappears. Now, just to prove my point, here is some aerial footage right there, and you can clearly see as the children are being led out that there is a building there where on the map it shows an open parking lot, or at least from the aerial view. Now, Google Street View may be updated and maybe their aerial spy cams are not, but I just wanted to point out that it's curious. I don't think it's nefarious, it's just curious. After all, it is a new building. It's a new theater. It's the new Forum Theater. Here you can see a screenshot thanks to an Anon who sent me this. And from their own website, you can see that it clearly is a new building, the new Forum Theater.
Got a flashback aside, take it back, yeah, yeah.
Taking you back to my video from the 12th, just days ago, and it's my video of a tweet from Just Informed Talk, who posted a video of a rally. So it's multi-dimensional news. Have a listen to what President Trump says.
Sir, I'm sorry you can't. He's got total immunity because he made it in Congress. Can you believe this? But here's the good news. At least we have a forum. We have a place we can talk so everyone knows what's going on. Bunch of phony people. But this is what...
So there you go, POTUS mentioning a forum, and I imagine that POTUS was probably giving a nod to 8kun, and of course Q Anon posting on 8kun, the new forum. I imagine that was what we were talking about, but I thought it was curious, and I did want to share it with you. Now, I also want to share a couple of other curious tweets here from ABC7 themselves. Here's this first one here. Amid chaos, frightened Saugus High School student sends her mother heartbreaking text message. I don't know what's going on, but I love you and Dad so much. Now, look, I want to stress again, I don't really know what the truth is of this event, and this is indeed heartbreaking, especially if people have been killed or injured or whatnot. But I just find it very interesting that they're jumping on the tearjerker wagon so quick. Let's look at this one right here. When students first heard the sound of gunshots, some said they weren't surprised. In fact, one student said he felt very prepared for an active shooter situation on campus. Very prepared. I didn't know high school students were so prepared. But then again, who knows, right? Maybe these kids go through active shooter situations on campus all the time. And of course, if you follow my channel for long enough, you know that usually active shooter drills and things like this usually coincide along these kinds of situations. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, just pointing it out. Now, I want to point this one out too here. Someone sent me this. This looks to be another ABC tweet, and some of it is cut off. Looks like a quote here. Should duck into the nearest class. Student describes to ABC7 photographer undergoing lockdown drills at school where multiple people are believed injured in reported shooting. All right, well, some of you parents can let me know if that's a normal thing for high schoolers to go through active shooter drills and things like that. We know it's a lot more common these days, but I found it all to be very, very curious, and I thought worth sharing. Now, allow me, if you will, to stay with ABC7 because I've been following their tweets for quite some time here. And in particular, I want to just turn you on to a couple of interesting dog tweets. Now, for those of you who aren't sure why I'm going into this territory, I highly suggest you start with my video entitled Very Good Boy. I've been covering this for about a year or so, and we've been noticing a series of different kinds of tweets and communications featuring dogs. Now, I want to point out that not every tweet featuring dogs is going to be some sort of communication. That's clearly not the case. We love to tweet about dogs. I love to tweet about dogs. Everybody loves dogs, and if you don't love dogs, you're a pinko commie. I'm just kidding. It's not true. I take that back. That's not completely true, but I'm not sure if I trust you. Anyway, let's look at this one real quick here from, again, from ABC, and they're promoting this docu-series, Pick of the Litter, about California guide dogs coming to Disney. All right, well, I don't want to focus on that one, but I just want to point out that it was real recent here, just hours ago. And then yesterday we saw this tweet from the DOJ with Bill Barr and his dog right there. And then there's this one here from ABC7 with Gnarwhal, and it's Gnarwhal because he's got a tail on his face, kind of like a narwhal has a horn on its head, but it's not a horn, it's a tail, and it's a tail on his face. Anyway, that's why they call him Gnarwhal. And this dog was rescued from a group called Mac's Mission, not to be confused with Sir Patrick Mack, which is M-A-C-K. But the point I want to bring up here is very good boy is stressed in the tweet. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with all this dog talk, you're going to think that that's really nothing at all. For those of you who've been following me for long enough to know all the extensive threads and videos that I've done on this, that's really what has me the most curious, is the constant use of not just good boy, but very good boy. And as you can see, it's not only capitalized, but the whole thing is capitalized. Very good boy. Well, I want to mention this theory from Luke Slytalker and The Force, who I tend to agree with. Now, we've tossed out a lot of different things, and I think there's a lot of different meanings with all of this, and I don't think I can really sum it up in one thing. But I want to point this out because the Slick talking Padawan seems to be on something, and I've tended to agree with this for a while. But Luke says, therapy dogs visit staffers. This was in regards to a series of tweets and articles that had come out. There was one from The Hill, I think, that started it. But just recently, with this impeachment inquiry, they actually sent therapy dogs out there, which is a very strange thing to actually visit congressmen and staffers and whatnot. And so, of course, Luke Sly Talker thinks this is also curious, saying therapy dogs visit staffers, aka chipped pets being brought in so secret messages can be surreptitiously transferred or transmitted. RFID writers are cheap and readily available. I can rewrite data to the pet's chip burner number and have you scan the pet to receive. Well, this seems very, very plausible, and I want to show you something in addition to this. But first, let me show you a couple of his graphics right here. This first one is from petfinder.com. It's a little Q&A just talking about how your pets get scanned, and it says right here, the highlighted part, your pet will be scanned for a microchip to reveal his unique ID number. Okay, well, if they can do that, I'm sure they can do much more, right? And of course, here is the ad from Amazon.com, and these little scanners almost look like USB sticks themselves, but they're scanners for these RFID chips, which are of course very, very creepy, but this is how they introduce it to you, right? They make a solution. Yeah, you can find your pet. It's going to help us all out. Da 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 da. You know, you should probably put one in your own neck. Just saying. Anyway, so I think this is very, very possible. And maybe this whole plethora of dog tweets and comms and whatnot, maybe a lot of them are just distraction, and only the ones that we really want to pay attention to are the very good boys. That's just a thought. You guys can let me know. But I also want to show you this. This is the Virtual Game Boy. VGB is a portable emulator of the Nintendo Game Boy handheld video game console. VGB is in very good boy. Now, before you go thinking I'm going off the deep end here, I want to point out that Q themselves have pointed out that this is something that's not only possible, but very, very plausible. We've talked about Game Boy and Xbox and PlayStation comms that a lot of these deep state knuckleheads were communicating through. We already know this. And it seems like once we see this whole D-class, this bacony, cheesy goodness, we may even see some of these comms. So we know it's possible. It's not that crazy, right? But let me read on. It runs most Game Boy, Super Game Boy, and Game Boy Color software on your personal computer. As VGB is written in a portable C programming language, it runs on many different platforms and operating systems. You can always get the latest VGB binaries and support files from, and there's the link right there. Okay, so don't know if that's what we're talking about, but let me also turn you on to this right here, and this is from SEJM.live. This is an August VGB 100 driver download. Getting sound was easy, but video took a little longer. Does anyone have any hints or tips, please? USB VGB video capture interface. The product worked as expected and was easy to operate when the software app, which was provided, and the driver were installed. The chip has a, I'm assuming that's Connexent logo on it. Anyone else using it would be opening themselves up to lawsuit for no good reason. As you can see, there's the picture right there. Also kind of looks like a little USB stick. Interesting. And North Korea's getting in on the dog business, calling Biden a rabid dog nearing death. North Korea's state media on Friday stepped up a personal attack on former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden for slandering its leader, calling the Democratic presidential candidate a rabid dog that needed to be put down. The official KCNA news agency did not say how Biden had insulted the North's leader, Kim Jong-un, but the 2020 presidential hopeful has been critical of U.S. President Donald Trump's policies, saying he was coddling a murderous dictator. Misspelling Biden's name, KCNA said the former vice president was showing signs of the final stage of dementia and, quote, the time has come for him to depart his life. In a commentary, it said, such a guy had the temerity to dare slander the dignity of the supreme leadership of the DPRK, using the North's official name, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It was the last-ditch efforts of the rabid dog expediting his death, KCNA said. Rabid dogs like Biden can hurt lots of people if they are allowed to run about. They must be beaten to death with a stick before it's too late. Yikes. In contrast, the North has credited a close personal relationship between Kim and Trump for saving ties between their countries from a destructive pattern of hostility. The leaders have met 3 times to discuss improving ties and ending the North's nuclear weapons. Okay, very interesting. Well, there are some definitions online that I found with Biden, and most of them were kind of leading to say, strong and powerful. And then, of course, there's this one right here. I'll let you read it because it's a family show. But I wasn't really sure about that. But I do want to point out that a while back, Trump misspelled Biden's name as Bidan. And I had a lot of theories about that too. Please go check out my dog threads. It'll all be linked down below. So that's all I got for you for now, Patriots. I want to add a side note here in regards to Gnarwhal. It comes from the Old Norse meaning Gnar, meaning corpse, which I thought was interesting given today's news. But I did find it very curious. But the Gnarwhal is, of course, this creature that is kind of perceived to have sort of these mythical powers and whatnot, sort of like the unicorn of the sea, right? But also I wanted to mention that the tusk that protrudes is actually a protruding canine tooth. Thought you might like to know. That's all I got for you for now, Patriots. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And thanks to all of you who do that already. If you get a chance, please check out my alternate links down below, as YouTube is getting increasingly difficult to upload on. Eventually, we're all probably going to have to migrate. Thanks to all of you who've been doing that already. And in regards to this code on BitChute, you shouldn't need to worry about it. You shouldn't really need it. There is a referral code that I can give you, but I was able to find that. But you shouldn't need it at all. If you just register and skip right past it, you shouldn't even need it. And that would actually be preferred, because I'd really like to not have to give out the code if necessary. But thanks to all of you who have migrated. My BitChute link is down below. My Gab, my DropSpace, my Brighteon, all those links are down below. And of course, I'm at Twitter at IPOT1776. That's the same as Gab, IPOT1776. All those links are down below. If you want to send me some information, my email is down below. And my P.O. box is down below if you'd like to send something old school. Thanks to those of you who have been doing that. I don't always get a chance to check everything, so sometimes it takes me a while to see what's in there. But I really appreciate all the gifts that so many of you guys have sent me, some really, really cool things. And at some point, I'm going to do a feature on all that. But that's all down below. And if you'd like to support my channel, my Patreon is linked down below. Also, if you go to my Patreon and you want to see my dog threads, it'll probably be an easier way to find it rather than digging through my Twitter threads. You don't need to be a patron to check out my Patreon. A lot of my threads are listed over there, so you can get caught up on some of this dog stuff and understand why it really does matter, and see really the last year's worth of information that I've provided to show you why. All right, Patriots, that's all I got. This is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay funky.